Delta Airlines is capitalizing on a demand for greater access to Africa. It just added flights to Liberia. It is the 7th African country now with direct Delta flights to the United States. Airline execs credit African-American investor Robert Johnson with making the business case for this latest destination. CNN's Brenda Bush reports Johnson has deep-rooted interests in helping Liberia.
Africa's first female president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and America's first black billionaire, Robert Johnson, together celebrating a milestone. The first U.S. commercial flight in 20 years to touch down on Liberian soil.
Our big thanks go to Mr. Robert Johnson, who's here on this flight. He has been a steadfast friend to Liberia in so many ways.
After more than a decade of civil war and lingering security concerns, Liberia is trying to make a comeback, and Robert Johnson is joining in the fight. And it is personal.
The connection, historical connection between Liberia and African Americans in particular is significant. The first 10 presidents from Liberia were freed American slaves. Liberia's flag is red, white, and blue. It has a president, a House, and a Senate, much as we do.
Johnson is a trailblazer. He is the first black person to be named on Forbes' annual list of the world's richest people. He founded BET, the first cable television station for black Americans. He is a real estate mogul and investor, and now fulfilling a vow made at the 2006 Clinton Global Initiative to make a difference. Johnson entered a new frontier, helping the country that was founded by America's freed slaves.
There's this unique cultural tie, an historical tie between African Americans, the freed slaves who settled Liberia, and America.
Strengthening those ties have prompted Johnson to plant roots here. He has built Kendija, the first oceanfront resort of its kind in Liberia. Its villa-styled rooms decorated with a contemporary African flair. He also helped establish a $30 million investment initiative to provide loans to local entrepreneurs.
Well, Liberia has all the right ingredients. It's got a beautiful coastline, as you can see behind us. It is 9.5 hours if you fly direct from Atlanta, as Delta's doing, eventually to Monrovia. It has an English-speaking population that's very well educated. It has a huge airport. It has an opportunity, as I said, to be the entry point into West Africa.
But one thing Liberia still needs, according to Johnson, is the support of African Americans.
We as African Americans need to look to the future and determine how we can help Liberia never return to the dark days of the past.
Liberians have long felt a strong kinship with the United States, so there is tremendous appreciation here for the wealthy American who is making the case for this impoverished nation.
This is an opportunity for African Americans, and I've said this before, for African Americans to embrace Liberia the way Jewish Americans embrace Israel.
Robert Johnson taking a lead in that embrace. Brenda Bush, CNN, Monrovia, Liberia.
And African Americans certainly need jobs in this economy. Robert Johnson is back from Liberia, and he joins me live from New York. Bob, it's good to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Tony, delighted to be here with you.
Well, let's get started with this, Bob. Take a look at this quote from former Treasury Secretary Bob Rubin. And here it is. We'll put it on the screen for you. It seems to me that we in the United States should be more focused on Africa, not only as the source of natural resources, but also for the full range of opportunities that exist. There is no reason why our president shouldn't be as great as, if not greater, than China's. Now, given your investment in Liberia, you obviously agree with the former Treasury Secretary. As you were thinking about Africa, what did you see as the possibilities for the continent?
Well, Tony, when you look at sub-Saharan Africa, which I think is what we're talking about, there are over 600 million people in sub-Saharan Africa. It's a tremendous opportunity for the growth of a vibrant middle class. The African nations are rich in minerals and natural resources. They have a tremendous coastline for exploration of oil, as they're doing outside of Liberia. And the governments are becoming more stabilized, more focused on free market economies, contractual rights, and all of this augurs well for sub-Saharan Africa becoming the next emerging area in the world as these countries become more stable and more politically sophisticated, and the economic need for the rest of the world to engage sub-Saharan Africa.
You know, Bob, I heard the case for Liberia in Brenda's piece, but that's not enough for me. I want to push a little bit more on that. Why Liberia? Aren't you taking a big risk investing in that war-torn country?
Well, you know, obviously, Tony, with risk in any area, emerging nations or war-torn countries, there's a huge risk. But I think Liberia, in the case of Liberia, it's a risk worth taking. First of all, they have a dynamic leader in President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Her commitment to Liberia and the experience that she's gone through in becoming president convinces me, and is convincing a lot of business people, that Liberia is open for business, that the government is focused on contractual rights, is focused on prohibiting any form of bribery or corruption. And as I said, Liberia has rich mineral resources, great fishing opportunity, great tourist opportunity, and I can't imagine in any scenario that the Liberian people will ever return to any form of the fighting and civil war that crippled Liberia for over 15 to 20 years. So
you attend the big Congressional Black Caucus weekend, and when you talk to black leaders about Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and specifically Liberia, what kind of reaction, Bob, do you get?
Well, most of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus have been committed to Africa and for a long time. Obviously, they took the lead in apartheid, ending apartheid in South Africa. They've seen what's happened in Ghana when we get political stability, and they look at Liberia because of the number of Liberians who live in the United States. Liberia has a huge expat population living here, some 15,000 in Atlanta alone. And the opportunity for these individuals to, one, support Liberia with their sending money back, or going back home and take their U.S. training and knowledge and applying it to Liberian economy, as well as the historical relationship of the United States with Liberia. Liberia was one of the, as I said, the first countries in Africa that embraced the United States. During World War II, the Roberts Field, where we landed our planes, was a place where planes flew into to continue the flight on into North Africa to defeat Nazi Germany. So there's this connection between the United States and Liberia, and between the people of the United States and Liberia, that I think the caucus members want to see promoted and encouraged, much as we do with much of the diaspora.
Yeah, well, Bob, can't let you go without asking you a political question. And I got to tell you, while you were a Hillary Clinton supporter during the campaign is obviously over. I'm sure you followed the first 18 months plus of the Obama administration. And as you know, we're showing everyone the numbers now. The president's job approval number is in the 40s. Here's the question. As you consider the president, the first African-American president of the United States, do you approve of the job he's doing?
Well, I think you got to put it all in context, Tony. Obviously, President Obama should get credit for stabilizing the financial markets and the banks, and the confidence he had in making that transition from what was happening before he was elected. I think he has his work cut out for him in two areas. One is obviously business confidence and consumer confidence. And you don't get consumer confidence up unless you have a coherent message of how are you going to put people back to work. And at the same time, you don't get business confidence unless business can get some certainty as to what are your policies towards economic growth, investment, and tax policy. So while I think he's got a tough fight ahead of him, some of it obviously he didn't create, but the fact is it's on his watch now, and it's his responsibility to give a clear message to the American people in the broad sense, not just Main Street, but Wall Street and small businesses and minority businesses, that I've got a plan to get this country back on the right track in the short order, and give people the confidence that his leadership is going to provide the confidence that this country is sorely lacking.
I think you just made the CNN political ticker. Robert, it's good to see you. Mr. Johnson, thanks for your time today, and
Tony,
we'll visit again soon.
All right, I'll see you in Liberia someday.
Okay, all right, Robert, thank you.